Our sponsors or partners is Norton Rose Fulbright, who will be giving the next speech as well. Please welcome, with a round of applause, Dr. Caroline Herkströter and her topic, I really dig the topic name, Sustainable Digitization and Digitized Sustainability, the Regulatory Perspective. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good you said the name, not me, because I have the same problems. So I skipped the title of my presentation. And yes, this morning, my little son was asking me, Mommy, what are you going to do today? I was like, dear, I'm speaking to people about sustainability, you know. He said, well, and he's a very, very smart guy. Look, watching his news and every day the children news on TV and only eating biologic food and telling me very much with respect to sustainable behavior. And then he said, what else are you going to do? I said, I'm going to speak about crypto. Oh, crypto, yes, I know, I heard about it. And he said, how does this relate to each other? And I said, you remember you've got this game, Minecraft, and you build a world. Yeah, you build the world you like, where everybody's happy. Trees are green, you can fly, all your animals you like, they're around, but at the same time, you have all this fancy stuff, like machines that are doing things on their own, robots you like. So it's a perfect world, and this is what we try to build for everybody by keeping our planet safe. So, how does it go together? This is our topic today. And I tell you, I'm a believer, and I ask you to be believers too, because our mindset will be what changes the world and which defines what we are gonna do. So I'm a believer. Crypto and sustainability, Sustainability and crypto goes together very well, and it has to go together. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And I'm going to show you within the next 20 minutes why. I hope it's not too boring and too legal, and I see how to, it works. ESG, very quickly, everybody has read it in the newspapers, if it's not the daily business of you. Environment, social governance. Was very funny because we had a talk a few days ago and somebody said, is it governance or is it government? I said, it's an interesting thing, but it is governance and this which means the management of structure, the setting up of structures which enable sustainable behavior. Environmental, that's clear, it's about climate change, it's about mitigation of climate risks. This is the most, I want to say, famous topic of ESG. But we should not forget, and I think this is something we heard about before, the social aspect of ESG. There is no E, there is no S without G, and the problem, why we have the environmental problem, is really related to the social problems we have in the world. We should never, ever forget that. Thank you so much, that's helpful. But normally, if you speak about crypto and about sustainability, you speak about the problem of energy consumption, why Bitcoin is bad for the environment is asked, or why Bitcoin uses more electricity than many countries do. How is that possible? Shouldn't we ban that? Bitcoin is a growing energy problem. I think this is all not new to you. Yeah, and you can see how much it is. On the other hand, crypto is good. Crypto can be sustainable. It is good for social participation, inclusion of groups of the society which are not included yet. It is good for the inclusion into the financial systems. It is good in terms of innovation. Innovating sustainability through digitalization, blockchains, technology that manage data, that help to make business more sustainable. And sure, it is good with respect to energy efficient methods we might develop and we might find, and at the end we might have clean energy powered crypto. So yes, there is many ways crypto can also be sustainable. And in my view, the point that at the moment it is very, very energy, there's a lot of energy consumption will end. We have an energy problem anyhow in the world, and we will have to find energy sources which help us to solve this problem by using sun, wind, whatever. It's not me who invents this, but this is a general problem, and it will be solved, and crypto will survive. So, two things won't go away. Crypto won't go away, sustainability won't go away, and the regulation on sustainability won't go away. So, and you know that there is a lot of regulation that was upcoming. You can read it in the newspapers, even if you're not in the financial market participant. And it changes the mind, it changes the decision of the investors. Investors are subject to the regulation, directly or indirectly, and it changes their mind, it changes what they want to see or have to see, what they can invest in. The aspects are, first of all, there is transparency. The disclosure regulation is a European regulation that focuses on transparency. By giving transparency about an investment product, it hopes that investors then might decide to invest in more sustainable product. There is the risk side. Regulation focusing on risk management of financial institutions, insurers, funds, all regulated entities. Forces them, and I come to this a bit later, to include sustainable risk aspect in all of their existing risk categories, and therefore, at the end, making unsustainable activities, behaviors, investments not that attractive and more expensive in terms of regulatory and financial figures. And at the very end, there is the asset allocation process. It's a lot of reputational issues. You have optional and not optional asset standards that are developed and that forces in the regulated markets a certain behavior and a certain investment decision process. So, and this changes the investment decisions of our investors. You can now say, I don't need regulated products. What do I need them for? I mean, I can go directly to crypto and that's all I want. Okay, but if you look how the world is now, and if you want to reach out to retail investors in the market and have the mass, then you have to see what is possible. And people love products they know. For example, funds. We heard these days that in US, ETFs, crypto ETFs, is the product of choice. So how it did in Germany? I wanted to give you a short overview. Yeah, there is at the moment in Europe, there is no direct investment for crypto assets in open-ended funds, being UCITS or AIFs, alternative investment funds, if it's a public fund. If you have a special fund for institutional investors, it depends. There's different fund categories. For one fund category, which is very common, you have just 20%. And for closed-ended special funds and general open investment funds, you can have a direct investment in crypto. But nevertheless, it means that for the broad mass, for the public distributed funds, you have not the option to invest directly in crypto. And that's a pity, because it was said by the regulation that, in the reasonings, that there is a way you can go over one-to-one delta certificates, which means that for a UCITS, you buy a certificate that is related to crypto, and which means that you add to the crypto risk a counterparty risk, which does not seem, from my point of view, very smart. However, that's how it is. You can do exchange-traded notes, and you find it. And this is sometimes mixed up. You look for exchange-traded funds, but at the end it's notes. Yeah, so be careful. The names are not always what's in it. You have the portfolio management, and you have sure certificates and derivatives relating to crypto assets. These is the products you have. This, again, the disclosure regulation had the target to strengthen the protection for end investors and improve disclosure to them through uniform disclosure requirements. And it is already applicable since March 2021. And what happened for entities and financial market participants in scope, which is financial market participants, manufacturers of products, and financial advisors, they have to give transparency regarding their investments on an entity level and on a product level about sustainability risks, consideration of adverse sustainable impact. I don't know whether you already heard about it. How does my investment harm with respect to sustainability? Provisions of sustainability-related information with respect to all financial products. Some people think only sustainable products. No, all products. It's like you go to the supermarket and you look what's in this, let's say, chocolate, sugar, EU 253, and a bit of milk. So it's the same. You want to buy a product and you have to see what's in there. So, and you have to give this information not only in the pre-contractual information, but in prospectuses, but also on websites. You have to do something in your remuneration policies. You have to give respective transparency in the periodic reports. And this applies to all people in scope. And that's really, really a burden. And I'm sure you have seen this. A lot of market participants are struggling with this. So, here you can see sustainability risk. What is it? It is an environmental, social, or governance event, or in condition that could have a material adverse effect, actual or potential, on the value of the investment. This is a sustainability risk. And an adverse impact is based on environmental or social indications, and we have a specification what an adverse impact is in the level 2 directives, where you can, because everybody said, how can I say what is an adverse impact? I mean, take an investment in Daimler. What is the adverse impact on environment? It's hard to say. So we have now a tick-the-box system with a couple of examples, and you can tick the box whether you have an adverse impact or not. And this adverse impact has to be on a sustainability factor, again, related to environmental, social, or employee concerns, human rights, and fight against corruption and bribery. So you see, it is very, very broad definitions. In risk management, it has to be said, and this concerns everybody who needs money from banks, who wants to have credits. It is relevant for bonds and loans. You see that it was said from the regulator, ESG risk is not a standalone category. It's a part of all risks you already know. Counterparty risk, country risk, reputational risk. But you have to consider ESG risks. Within all these categories, you have built up scenarios, risk scenarios, for transitional risks, for existing risks, for upcoming risks. So it's really, really cumbersome what has to be done. And other acts have been amended. It's not only banks, it's the same for fund managers, it's the same for insurers or security services providers. So, also internally, you have to do a lot, and this turns out in, different figures, different prices for money, for loans, for bonds. So, and back to our crypto assets. This is generally the case, and this explains if a bond, a fund, whatever, invests into crypto, that he has to say something about the sustainability aspect, disclosure. And we have to find answers. We have to provide the data, we have to provide the information, and the information has to be so good that somebody wants to buy it. So, but coming back to the asset allocation point. The European Commission realized that technical innovations such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, big data, and the Internet of Things has a significant role to play in sustainable finance. Well, that's what we said before. And now the question was, how? The Commission honors that digital technologies are important enablers, and they had some concerns about the environmental impact, sure, with respect to data centers and distributed ledger technologies. The target was the assessment of sustainability impact of digital finance technologies, and yeah, the aim was the EU should take the lead in making infrastructures climate neutral by 2030. The technical screening criteria of the EU taxonomy should be expanded and used to explain what is sustainable with respect to crypto asset activities and what not. So, but first of all, there was a smart idea. We spoke about MiCA these days. MiCA is the Market and Crypto Assets Regulation from 20 September 2020, and you all know it. I don't have to go deep into it. It was discussed to establish high environmental standards into MiCA regarding the consensus mechanism. So the idea was, we have now MiCA, which is for crypto assets, and we put in the high environmental standards to apply. This didn't happen because because they said it is not the right place to do it. We are not technical experts doing the MiCA. MiCA is not the right place. We have the taxonomy. The taxonomy is this classification regulation which sets out for each single industry what is sustainable and what not. What activity is sustainable? And the same should hold true for crypto asset activity. It should not go into MiCA, and it didn't. So MiCA, the fine text now, is without any aspects of environmental behavior, and it will come the taxonomy regulation. We have the green taxonomy, and that's the taxonomy that says what is environmentally sustainable. What is to come is maybe a brown taxonomy, saying what is not, what does harm the environment, what is harmful, a neutral technology, what is in between, no influence. I cannot imagine an activity which, no. Okay, but the neutral taxonomy was the idea, and a social taxonomy. We speak about this in a minute. And then there was a proposal of an extended taxonomy, put all in one. Just have one big taxonomy. But come back to the green taxonomy. How is it at the moment? To say I have an environmentally sustainable economic activity, what has to happen? You have to have a substantial contribution to one or more of the environmental objectives of the taxonomy. You have not to significantly harm any other environmental objective of the taxonomy, which means you cannot do good on the one hand side and bad on the other hand side. There is a compliance with minimal social safeguards. This is the social aspects, human rights, labor law things. And the compliance with technical screening criteria of the delegated acts has to be ensured, which means that the taxonomy and the delegated acts are very, very technical. This has been done by technical experts of the different branches and this has been done by experts of the different groups, and which means if you look into the taxonomy, you can find something for the real estate sector, for the transporting sector. So you find each and every activity in there. These is the environmental objectives of the taxonomy. It is climate change mitigation, adaptation, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources, transition to a circular economy, pollution prevention and control, and protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. For the first two goals, we already have level 2 measures. Oh, I'm running late, I see. Okay, just a quick word. about data centers, which are already included in the taxonomy, and you can find something about data centers. Crypto assets as such are not included, but there is some ideas how data centers can help for climate change mitigation or climate change adaptation. And there are clear rules what has to happen that you can say a data center is seen sustainable. Yeah, which is not an easy one, I know. And I have the feeling it goes a bit in the direction the crypto assets will go, without having the time to elaborate on that. Again, this is the idea of the extended taxonomy, which is one taxonomy, not a brown, a neutral, and a green one, but you put all in one and you have a traffic light system. Would maybe make crypto with proof of work red and hopefully turn one day into green. Yeah? Because they said just have a brown one, it's so naming and shaming. Nobody wants to have something which is in brown taxonomy, so they had the idea to put it all in one and just give them a traffic light. The social taxonomy, and this is, give me 2 minutes just to say it, because I believe that for crypto assets, that will be the relevant taxonomy of the future. Looking at the stakeholders for social taxonomy, workers, end users, society, yeah, and having a social aspect. Yeah, it's a substantial contribution to a social objective, and we heard how we can do it, how we can be inclusive, how we can help to have social objectives brought up by this crypto asset world. Yeah, and last but not least, there is the directive on corporate sustainability due diligence, Lieferkettengesetz, on an EU level, which will force every company in scope, and it's nearly everybody, to see that throughout the supplier chain, and you might be on the top of the supply chain or somewhere in there, to see that human rights, environmental adverse impacts, and everything is taken care of, that you have control over it, change it. In worst case, you have to terminate suppliers, you have to amend your chain, and there are hard sanctions which are provided for under the relevant civil laws if this comes into force. And it will come into force 2 years after it has been finally agreed. So this might be 24, 25, 26, but it will come. And at the late then, you will have a problem. So key takeaway. Regulatory landscape is dense, comprehensive definition of sustainability, but it's a growing demand, and there is a chance we do a lot good out of it, especially with respect to inclusion and participation. So I have to end, sorry, very late, I know. And thank you very much for listening.